And did you ever draw Lucy? Because I don't know if that's because I know Lucy had a very
No, I did, and it didn't go very well. So it
because
didn't go
I
well.
just guessed. Iko Nini.
Ekonene.
Episode 327 kusema like, subscribe, hit the notification button, tell a friend to tell a friend, sindio?
Yeah.
Na leo tuko na one of those guests that I've been really looking forward to, and ukigoogle unaambua like he's the most syndicated cartoonist in East and Central Africa. Sisi hapa Kenya tunamjua kama Gado. Your name is interesting. Unakuagana ni
Godfrey
Mwampemba. Okay.
Mbwa.
Mwampembwa.
Yeah.
Okay. Yo jina wagana naifind ikiwa hard sana. Yeah, so tuko na Gado, of course wengi wetu tunamjua from the newspapers, specifically Nation.
Yeah.
And of course pia online siku hizi tunamfuatilia kwa X, ilikuwa Twitter. And yeah, so the first thing naenda kuuliza, did you see the Ruto puppet in the middle of town? Na nataka kujua watu walikuja Buni studios wakaiba ama what happened, because that was one of the funniest things to mwana kwa protest.
No, I think the were crew of young people who had worked with Buni before.
Yeah.
Had wanted to demonstrate and to be part of the demos, and they basically just asked Buni, and we allowed them, and they were, they worked with our team. I'm not these days pretty. I have taken a back seat for some time now, but the team sort of organized they had a mock parliament.
Okay.
The idea was to show their displeasure to the of course the finance bill.
Yeah.
And so they thought of a creative way of coming up with a creative way of being part and parcel of the demos.
Okay. Yeah. So how was it to you? Because for a lot of people, like, we just kept sharing it and laughing because it looked too funny. Like, we're so used to seeing that puppet on the show. Now to just see it on the streets and watu wanainua mikono. That was too funny. So sijui kwako ilikuwaje, like, because you didn't know how they'd use it, you didn't know how the public would react.
No, not quite. I think the idea, they had just the idea that they would have a mock parliament.
Yeah.
And of course that also involves a lot of work in terms of putting it together and so forth. And so they had to improvise and figure out, okay, how do you go about it. But it turned out to be quite funny and quite hilarious. And so
yeah, because that was hilarious. Alafu, what did you feel about this protest? Because I remember, like, we were supposed to meet last week, but you said you were going for the protests. So you'd gone for all of them, or this was your first one last week?
Gone for two of them. Was part of the two of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the ones for last week, Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Oh, okay. How was it last week on Thursday? Because the Thursday one, personally, I decided to stay away. I felt like the message had already changed.
Well, the side that I was peaceful. I was on the side of the Koinange Street, Moi Avenue, Koinange Street, Mwindi Mbingu, Moi Avenue, and Kimathi. So I went to, and I observed most of those, protesters were peaceful.
Yeah.
And they were singing, and there was a lot of energy, and it was quite peaceful. They were quite peaceful demos. There was no issues with anything. So I was there, and I did. I think I left a bit early.
Okay.
Yeah, but before what happened in Parliament, I was. But again, as I said, I if you're on this other side, you could hardly know what was going on the other side.
Oh, okay. So you are talking about the ones on Tuesday. So on Thursday, when there was this Occupy State House, that one you didn't go to town.
No, I was
Okay.
Because
on Tuesday, Basit, we were in the same street because we also did Koinange, Koloita, Mwindi Bingu, Kimathi.
Yes.
We also just stayed around that
exactly,
area. And when we heard that people had gone to Parliament, we left town because we knew now it was going to be. You left town on Tuesday? What time?
Yes, I think around way past around the 3.
Yeah.
And so I went back to deal with my deadlines.
Okay. Yeah. And had you ever imagined that would ever happen, like Kenyans breaching Parliament?
Not really, but I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
I think I wasn't surprised. Quite honestly, I was not surprised because if you are a keen political watcher and follower of what's happening of politics in Kenya and what is happening, you could feel it was a long time coming. I mean, the sentiments and the what the young people have been articulating and saying, and of course also how the whole thing was handled. And so I think, in my view, that in one way or the other, you could see the possibility of that people are going to probably to breach that. But however, you also have to, it is important to note that at every point, I think also you had the provocation from the police also, and also you had the situation where you had, other characters and goons who have infiltrated in there and, were causing all manners of mayhem. And so, and mostly the police kept provoking the protesters, and so in that sense, that was bound to happen. But more importantly, is also if you are to follow the events over the number of years, then especially in more recent years, then if you look back, this was bound to happen. I mean, also you have to, there have been a lot of warnings about if you're to take a much more broader perspective about this thing. I mean, that you have actually this unemployment and what is happening to the youth. This is a time bomb. This has been said again and again and again. I suppose politicians, when they were told that, look, Gen Zs is a time bomb, they thought probably Gen Zs is some sort of a deodorant. Sort of. No, it was actually, these are very frustrated kids who actually decided to actually take matters on their own hands in terms of exercising their democratic right.
And the response from the government, has that surprised you? The way the government has been super violent with protesters?
Not quite, because if you are to look, back, I mean, the government always, rather the police, if you are to look at it, throughout history, I mean, they know how to react to, violent protests. They have no clue how to react or to deal with peaceful protesters, and I think that was also problematic, so to speak, if you are to look at from that perspective. And I think that is actually has been part and parcel of the problem, that largely the protesters were peaceful, largely, apart from actually a few again, you have politicians and other characters actually who have actually taken advantage of the situation, and they have actually got in there, and we are now we are where we are with this.
Yeah. And also, like, one of the things that has happened is there was the chant Ruto must go, and with that has come the thing of who do we think would make a better president. And one of the names that has been suggested is Matiang'i. Of course, you've been you've been doing political satire for long. Do you think there would have been any difference between Matiang'i if this was happening in his government, like people are protesting? Do you think there would have been any difference in the amount of violence like meted out on innocent protesters? Like unarmed protesters, peaceful protesters.
Okay, maybe you phrase again your question. I mean, I want to...
people have been blaming that level of violence that the police, the police is doing this because Ruto allows them to do that, yes?
Yeah.
So some people are suggesting a better president like Matiang'i would not do the same. He'd not be that violent with protesters. But of course, you covered Matiang'i.
Okay.
So do you feel like there have been any difference? If who was president, not just...
not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm very candid about that. I mean, the political... it is the security structure and the police structure that is there.
Yeah.
Is bound to react the way they reacted. I mean, that is actually, that's actually how the police are structured, how they are trained, and so forth. I think a lot of times we have spoken about the police reforms and all that, and I think this is exactly some of the issues that have been raised time and time again. You need actually police reforms in the sense that you need to have police trained, for police to be trained in how to deal with the protesters, and among many other things, right? But I don't think that the situation would have been any different if actually you had a different person at the helm, simply because everybody would have inherited that very similar structures.
Okay.
And I think that is also part and parcel of the problem.
Oh, okay. Because I always, personally, always feel like maybe a different person who maybe has gone through the struggle would treat protesters with a little bit more, like if they are peaceful, don't beat them up. But maybe I'm
I suppose you're right. I think you would, to some extent, you would say that. But again, as we said, you have also pretty much a lot of other elements in there, in the sense that you had also people who have infiltrated at that point the protests and so forth. However, I would still think that at the end of the day, it's important that to see as the security apparatus that we have, are designed
to
react that very way, to protesters and to demonstrators and so forth. And I think you have seen, I mean, a lot of times, the challenge you have is exactly that. A lot of times in the recent history and much more, how they react to protesters is that the reaction is always that it is, in most cases where people are demonstrating peaceful, you find that the idea is to not to allow peaceful demonstrators. That has been always the case, and you go there with that aim. You know, and that we have seen many times. I think in this recent few weeks is the idea of actually protesters being provoked and protesters being actually pushed and so forth and so forth.
Okay.
But I still believe that this could have been kept much more, could have been done much more better, even with the security apparatus that is there. Of course, this could have been avoided. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. Yeah. And then of course when we talk about your work, one of the things that stands out is the fact that once you've decided, I don't know what it's called, you've decided on portraying someone as a certain character, you stick with it and use it like in different scenarios. So like with the president, for example, you normally use the Indian head wrap. It's the turban,
The turban.
Yes. So how did this Indian thing come up for maybe younger people who don't understand the history? And why did you settle on that?
It was during the when you had the Western Hotel scandal.
Okay.
I think when President Ruto was still a deputy president, and the idea was, he was at that time, I think Western Hotel was accused of grabbing that primary school land, and initially it was revealed that the hotel is owned by Sikh investors. And then later on, he came by to say, okay, I'm the real owner of the hotel. And I said, so you are the Sikh investor. And I actually, as I said, I had kind of plagiarized that idea. I saw somebody actually, kind of had a photoshopped picture of Ruto with a turban, and so I said, okay, this is a good one. I think I can work with this. And so it is from there when I actually started drawing him with a turban.
But I also think there's a time he also visited, I think, the Indian community, and he wore a turban, if I'm not wrong. He also done it.
Yeah, he did that. He was pictured so exactly. So it was interesting because that actually appeared later.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it appeared later actually.
Oh, after he'd already been mocked.
Actually, that was that appeared later.
And so how do you think? Have you ever met him? Have you ever been in?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm normally, I've always, throughout my career, I've always kind of kept politicians at arm's length. I don't interact with them, and of course, my job and my role doesn't allow that. I'm some sort of an arms chair expert. I don't, go to cover them. I don't go to interview them. I do my I read about them. I go to online and search stuff about them and research and stuff like that, but I do not interact with them.
Okay.
But I've also made that a very it's a very for me as a person, it's also a very how do you say?
It's like one of the principles you.
Yeah, I'm very deliberate in the sense that if you work, for a newspaper or for a media organization, you have some sort of access to these people.
Yes,
you can meet them in functions, in so forth and so forth. But I've made it a point that I don't necessarily have to go and meet them, and of course my job also does not necessarily need. You don't need to meet them. Yeah. So I tend to avoid an interaction with politicians.
Because that has reminded me, there's something that I think I saw Boniface Mwangi saying. He said that on an interview with CTA. He said that you're the one who taught him that. You taught him never get any sort of favor from a politician. Like always
he said
keep.
that?
Yeah, he said that you. I don't know if you told him intentionally or something, or he borrowed from you.
Yeah.
But he said that he learned that from you. That never let a politician have access to you, because they'll try and influence you in one way or another.
Yeah. Boniface is a friend, and so that has been a bit of something that you have to keep in mind. I mean, politicians are very crafty people. I mean, and you have to be Kenyan politicians are very crafty characters. I mean, these are very
They are cartoonists.
they are very tricky customers. So you have to be careful with them. I mean, if you want to do your work with a modicum of freedom and with a little bit of actually, freedom in terms of what you do, it's you'd rather avoid them, and if that actually has been applied also in other countries, and I know some of my colleagues in different countries, that's how you work. If you actually to do it, to do that and get a bit of respectability, because they can actually imagine if they can always influence stuff. I mean, they can these are people who are not shy to use all manners of ways to bribe you to, and sometimes you are just human. I mean, you can get the moment you get close to them, how are you going to criticize them if you get actually closer to these people? And you are supposed to be you are in the business of telling truth to power, and so that might be compromised if actually you get closer to these people. And so I tend to think that it's you are better off if you try to avoid that.
Okay. But have you ever been in a situation whereby you meet one by accident? Because all that happens, where you're in a room, and they're just like, "Hey, I saw what you did," and you dream either they were happy or angry.
Yeah, there've been a few incidents that you bump. I mean, sometimes you bump into them into meetings. I've bumped into meetings abroad. Some of them, like conferences abroad. And then some of them are not, don't shy away from it. Kind of, telling you off right away, and you are mean to me, and sometimes you bump into them in some functions, once in a while, and some have been, these are people also with big egos. So some of them, kind of want to patronize you and say, "Oh, why don't you do this? You're unfair to me." I'm always, in a way, very. I don't take it personal. With these characters. After all, I'm in a business of drawing horrible cartoons. So I think I understand that, and I understand when they complain and tell me off. I mean, a few of them have written, in the past, have directly written letters to
Nation
and to complain. Of course, these days with social media, some of them have reacted and so forth. But I'm fine. I don't take their comments very. I'm not offended by that.
Okay.
As I said, I'm in the business of offending people, so I understand that. So but as I said, I tend to avoid interactions with these characters. I must say also, there are very few public figures who have complimented what I do.
Okay.
You know, and those are in the very minority, and and so.
Can you name any?
I think yes, I can name one. I mean, former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga
Okay.
he he's one person whom I has as a public figure, he has always kind of acknowledged the role of cartoonists, and I got to know a bit about him and interacted with him. He's a champion of free speech, and he has always been very supportive of editorial cartoonists and other satirists. In fact, even though he has been a victim of my pen, quite a number of times, and so.
Okay. And now let's see, the first time you draw Ruto with the turban, are you nervous? Like, what happens? Like, the first time you draw someone, like a certain character, is there a certain level of nervousness, or it's just like whatever happens?
I think you don't. Okay, I come from a background, working at Nation. I was actually quite, how do you say, very, lucky in a way. I started, when during the heady days, when, I started in 1992 when things were opening up and during Moi's time, and so there has been all this build up, and I think writers, journalists, and cartoonists and satirists have over the years gained quite a lot of space, and it it's very difficult to reverse that if you're to look back. And so I've what your job as an editorial cartoonist, you come up with an idea, and you sometimes share that with your editors, and you bounce back the back and forth ideas at times, and there are times, so it's not only politicians. I mean, it's all about issues. I mean, there are times, for example, when you are dealing with hectic subjects, I mean, or sensitive subjects that are taboo. There is always that a little bit of, how are people going to react about this, and so forth. But I think once you're confident that, this is okay, then that's fine. And of course, that's also the role of what editorial cartoonists do. I mean, you have a license to offend. It's a license to offend, and it's a craft that allows you to remind the people in power and the society at large about these issues. And so it is very okay from time to time when you offend people. I mean, that's the role, your role. I mean, and so that doesn't bother satirists. I think sometimes I've done things, and then you, of course, you look back and say, "Oh, that was tough," know. But it comes with the territory, and over the years, I've been sued, I've been, threatened, and been, not only. My family has been threatened. You get insulted, you get attacked, and luckily I've never been attacked physically. But you can. Number of times you meet people who are very angry with you, and so you have to live with that. It's part and parcel of what you do, and I'm very. I'm fine with that. I can live with that.
Okay. So the lawsuit, I think one of the lawsuits that I think it's Ian who told me about this. Like when I was researching, this lawsuit didn't come up, but Uhuru Kenyatta had sued you.
so I know, I over a cartoon I did, I sued the Nation, and I was enjoined.
Oh,
because
okay,
Nation published the drawing, and so I know that
Which cartoon was that?
I think it was when we had the computer era cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Typing error.
Typing errors.
Yeah,
Yes, you
yeah.
remember. Yeah, so I did a drawing about that, to the effect that the one lady telling the other that, well, don't worry, if your son is not doing well at school in mathematics, he might become a finance minister one day. So, so I'm not sure how that case ended, but I was very much aware, and it went on for some years. I know, I think Oliech, I think if he threatened to sue, or he sued over a cartoon I did. I know.
The Oliech one was what?
I did him, I think, when he had a fight at a nightclub.
Oh, okay.
And I think at Florida nightclub, and I think I did a drawing of, sort of like a ball coming out, kicked out of
A club.
broken a window of Florida nightclub, and so so I did that. That was one. And there, I have a whole file of people, of threats, and I know at one point even Martha Karua threatened to sue when he was in the government.
When she was justice.
When she was and
Justice
when
Minister.
she was in justice, and I think when she was Minister for Water, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There has been also, I think, I've been threats from the Chinese embassy, and from the Zimbabwean High Commission, from Ugandan High Commission. I mean, my editors used really at Nation, I think,
handle all that.
to deal with quite a lot. I mean, and I must also say that, I was also, in the sense, yes, I worked with a very powerful organization, in the sense that, all this, I was enjoined in this, but the first respondent was always, the newspaper. And so all these complaints most of the time were, to my editors, and I was always insulated. And I think that also what made it, and that's across the world. The editorial cartoonists, they work for a newspaper, and so first you have to deal with the newspaper before you reach them. So that is also something that you have to deal on a regular basis.
Okay. And so Uhuru, you started drawing him with the crown much later, because as the finance minister, he was not still Mudhamaki. So you started drawing him with the crown much later. Yes?
Yeah, like an emperor, prince, and emperor.
Yeah. So him, because you've drawn all these presidents, you've drawn Kibaki, Moi,
Kibaki.
Uhuru. Who do you think was the most thin-skinned? Like the one guy who maybe you had people whispering that this one, he's somewhere at State House losing it. He can't believe he's the president, and people are drawing him.
Yeah, so it's probably Moi and Kibaki. I'm not sure, but Moi and Kibaki probably were much more thin-skinned. I mean, I in the sense that, look, I lots of the reactions we got, or I got, also from people, not from them. But I do, and as I said, I mean, I always tried throughout my career to avoid even interacting even with their
they're people.
They're people. So sometimes you meet these people, you and they would tell you a thing or two. But I would say Moi and Kibaki, probably, even when you meet their people, they were much more cordial, a bit cordial, and as compared to Uhuru and Ruto people, who are very, aggressive and they sort of like threatened you and things like that.
Oh, so it's basically Uhuru and Ruto are more thin-skinned. You expect, because I expected the older.
They were much more thin-skinned in terms of and you see that with their people. I mean, with their press teams, with their hangers-on, with all these people. When you and I think that is evident in most of their in most of their reactions to to not only to editorial cartoonists. I mean, it's also to the media. You have to understand, for example, Uhuru and Ruto, they came out to attack the media during the the first time they took power. They were very much they attacked the media into Uhuru famously said that the newspapers are
for wrapping meat.
Yes, are for better of wrapping meat, and so it tells you how they feel about the media.
Okay. And did you ever draw Lucy? Because I don't know if that's because I know Lucy had a very
no, I did, and they didn't go very well. So
because I just guessed because she was really
no, I did a drawing of a drawing that did not and it's a funny story because it was basically the drawing was not sanctioned by my editors. I sneaked it in, and then my the graphic team put it in there. I think later on my editor withdrew it, but the online edition kind of went with it, and I think that didn't go well with with State House, and I think it caused quite a lot of issues, because I had the late First Lady sitting on Kibaki, basically saying Kibaki amekaliwa. So while signing a paper, so if you search online, you'll find it, and so that didn't go well, and the fact that it didn't appear in the newspaper but it appeared online, fueled even a bigger uproar out there. So in a way it was, and that was one of the drawings that I remember, that was not well received at State House.
Okay. Were there any opportunities to draw Margaret?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. There are a couple, but she was always sort of like off the.
Hands off, eh?
No, she was always. She was much more.
Laid
back. She didn't appear. She was not in the news as often as the late Lucy, and so But even that, also there was always a reaction. I think there was always this reaction that they. Why are you drawing the First Lady and so forth? And I think, for me, it's always, politicians and their wives are, fair fight. If you're a public figure, that's the price you have to pay. But I never got to do a lot of her because she was not also into the into the radar all the time. So
because I saw like there's this one that you did around the time when there were floods, where you had the First Lady and the President all they were on top of the State House, and she was saying we are not praying hard enough. Because I also feel like she gives more opportunities of being drawn than Margaret, or because she's there, she's in our face.
She's in the news. She's always praying, at State House and so forth, and now also you have the office of the First Lady, so that is that is there's no way any satirist can avoid that. You know, it makes it hard to avoid such characters. So yeah.
Oh, during Margaret's time, it had not been defined as the office of the First Lady.
I'm
Her
not-
and
I think it
and Lucy,
did.
they were just first ladies, but
Yeah, I'm not sure when that started, and especially the budgetary allocations. I would need to go back and look. But you still have them. I mean, in public, in public arenas, and so that makes it a fair fight as far as editorial cartoonists are concerned. I mean, they go to open, they give statements, they give, they even came, I think I remember I did, a cartoon on this.
pastors.
No, they had a conference on first ladies, governors, first lady. I remember.
Yeah,
What was that?
A lot of African
Yeah,
countries.
it's like
yes,
they have the
they
first
meant-
ladies governors conference. Or so I remember doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think you can't avoid that. People say, oh, you shouldn't satirize their families. No, I say no. Their families are part and parcel of the administration. More so because they are involved with politics of the day. So
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for any satirist to
avoid that. Yeah.
yeah.
And do you feel like she's played a role in making people turn against the church? Like the fact that right now people don't want the church
No.
just...
The church has it's a self-inflicted issue.
Okay.
It's not. There is nobody to be blamed here. The church has. If you are to ask me, and I've done lots of drawing
on the church,
the
yes.
church, and I've also been, attacked, or rather, the church has not been very happy with me. This is self-inflicted problem. The church, is to blame for its own role in this. The church has basically failed as a whole, and they should not blame anybody. I think politicians and other people have taken advantage of it, as they usually do, and it's as simple as that.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen nowadays people saying we don't want your prayers, just we want action. You see, we want... Like, what did you feel about Benny Hinn coming to pray?
No, I'm not a fan of these church leaders. I mean, I'm really not. I mean, I think, as I said, if you are to look at the history of the church, in Kenya, is that the church has played a very important role in the past in fighting for all these democratic rights that we enjoy, and I think that has been eroded over the years, especially in recent years, and I think that is a shame.
Yeah.
And as I said, politicians are very clever in terms of taking advantage of the situation. I mean, you have seen how money has been used to corrupt the church. The church leaders unashamedly come out to brag about the money that is contributed, and I think they absconded their role as faith leaders, as they've lost their moral compass, and I think what is happening. You've seen how the protesters are the noise that they're making about the church. It's it is a reflective of that. It's a reflection of that.
Okay. And when we talked about the threats, was there at any point where, because I remember there's a time when Alan Namu and Jichopevu, they were threatened, I think they even had to leave the country. Have you ever felt that unsafe, that you're like, kutoka kwa nyumba might be...
Yeah, so my friend John Alan Namu, I mean, they, probably his situation is a little bit different. He's
on the ground. He
On
deals
the
with them.
ground, he's meeting these people, he's interviewing these people, and I think so it makes him an easier target. People don't know how I look like, where I live, and and I think that makes it easier for me as opposed to my colleagues like John and I have lots of respect for people like John, because despite that they've kept at it, and that's not easy, because it's very difficult, and you have to live with that. So there are times I've felt it's
Unsafe.
a bit I have to be careful, but I've never there has never been a time where I have probably been very afraid to go to places. It's not that I go all over the place, but I think I've lived quite normally.
Okay.
And I've gone about my business normally. You get letters, you get phone calls, you get people text messages and so forth, and sometimes so the few times that has happened, including, by the way, threats from politicians.
Okay.
I have reported that to my
Editors.
my editors, and I think that was enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the politicians, it's like ndakumaliza ama what sort of it is it? I'll get you fired.
Well, I won't want to name them, but
No, you name them. I'm saying like sort of threat. Is it I'll finish you or I'll get you fired?
No, they would I think they would basically say and this has not been many. I've been one or two where they would say you got to stop your nonsense.
Yeah.
This nonsense of yours, you got to stop. So it's which is funny in itself. It's kind of okay. So I thought you were doing nonsense.
Yeah.
So so you over the years have kind of brushed that aside, and I think that also has happened to my colleagues, my friend and my colleague, Paul Kalemba Mad will tell you, similar stories. And
Okay.
So.
Okay. And if you were to maybe rewind a little bit and go back to you're in Tanzania, yes? Because like for a lot of Kenyans, we've come to own you, like Gado ni Mkenya, like ukiambia mtu Gado,
He's one of us.
yeah, like we ni moja wetu. So how does this transition happen? Because I know you went to at the university to study architecture, but then you end up in Kenya nation. So how does that happen? Are you a student there? Someone scouts you?
No, so it's an interesting story. I did. I actually absconded my duties as a student. So I actually I won a competition that the nation did in '92, and so I collected my prize money, and I did a bit of stint with nation, and then after that I had a discussion with my editors, and then I took up a job, and so I left my studies.
So the competition was an East African competition?
It was, well, but at that time we used to get the nation. We could buy the nation. So I saw the competition while at the
in Tanzania.
In Dar, where I was born, bred and raised. I just sent my drawing, and so I became second, and I came by to collect the money. I hanged around Nairobi for a month,
So where are you staying at this point?
I was staying at the hotel. I think I was as a young man. I just in fact I was staying at. I remember very well. I was staying at I don't think I'm staying at Mercury Hotel.
Yeah.
It used to be a Mercury Hotel, so I stayed there.
That was not expensive.
Sorry.
That was not expensive. Like for a whole month.
Yeah, for the whole year it wasn't. It wasn't that expensive because of I managed to pay a little bit of that with the money that I was getting from my editorial work, so kind of. And then so later on I had to come because there were all issues of, I had to get the paperwork done and things like that. And so I did. That's what happened, and I think it's because at that time the nation lost. Its best cartoonist, Mad, who was there then, and he left to join the Standard. So they spent some time looking for a replacement, and so that's how I managed to come to
Kenya,
to Nairobi, and so I stayed ever since. And
so when because I'm assuming in '92 when you're traveling to Nairobi from Dar, you used the bus.
I used the bus, yeah.
So by that time, you just thought, I'm just coming, take my prize, go back home.
Yeah, I just thought, why not? I just, take a break. It was during a break, actually. So I took a break. I just came. I thought I was quite bold. I just, all myself, and my parents were very unhappy with that because it's, you're going to a different country. You haven't been there. And, I was pretty young then, so but I said, well, what the heck, and why not? So ever since, and again, as I said, because as an editorial artist you don't appear it's not like your face is there, your drawings are there, and so over time I had to of course, to catch up with Kenyan politics and really understand and learn and so forth. And so with time, people have always, known that I'm Kenyan.
So this thing that you drew that made you become second prize, what was it? Because you didn't know anything about Kenyan politics by then.
No, but I was very much, I knew. It's not like I knew. I knew a lot about Kenyan politics, but I also did not know a lot about Kenyan politics.
You used to read the Nation.
In the sense that if you're an editorial cartoonist, also you really need to know you have to have a deep understanding of the politics. And that I didn't necessarily have at that time. I knew a bit of this and that. And so, but I also knew a lot about global politics. And so I did stuff about also, for example, Iraq war and the US and so forth. And we were supposed to do about 3 or 4 drawings, and I'm not sure so I sent mine. And remember, even my editor said they didn't understand one drawing, and that's why I became second. But that notwithstanding, I ended up actually doing getting the job. So
okay. And who was number 1? Do you know?
I don't remember that. In fact, it was an Indian chap. But I can't remember.
That's and how was the culture shock? Because in Tanzania you're used to Luha. Is it Luha or Lugha Kiswahili? And then you come to Kenya, it's
so I could get by. I was, one of the things is that even as growing up, I was very much somebody who's pretty much how do you say? I was
used to love English.
Globalist in a way. I would listen to BBC. I was, that pretty much. Of course, I didn't know anything about Kenya in terms of the people, but so when of course there was the culture shock, but I was quite I think I'm always a very adaptive person, so I kind of adapted quickly. And I also managed to make a few friends who were very good. Here, I mean, I met my, early friends when I started, out. And so and also I had to learn pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I could, as a, high school student, just because as a college student,
Yeah.
I think I wasn't that intimidated because of the people I found at the Nation, I must say. So the Nation were very
Friendly.
very friendly and journalists, and but I also had to, hit the ground running. I had to learn a lot of things. I mean, and pretty quickly. And that's I had to learn quite a lot. I mean, that was the case. I mean, I had, because I mean, I came from being completely an amateur to working professionally with a very
Well-oiled
professional,
machine.
well-oiled machine. I had to, so it was actually quite. So it wasn't much of a culture shock. It was pretty much of actually. It was pretty much. I had to.
Adapt or
Yes, it was pretty much, I had to, adapting and learning. And I actually had to, quite honestly, I had to, I was determined basically to, to learn. And and I was kind of, yes, I mean, my working with a very, this very, very good journalists, and very, very passionate journalists. So
who was the editor-in-chief at that point?
at that point, it was Wangethi Mwangi, who was very, very. Wangethi was very good to me, and he was also, I think Wangethi must have seen something in me, because he was very also protective of me and he gave me a lot of guidance, and it's also my, coming, with my background, my, kind of, my English was not very good, and I had to, to learn and so forth, and but I was very determined, and also learned a lot of other.
So were you able to? You must have worked with him. Whispers, eh? Whispers was still
Mutahi.
was still there.
Yeah. Worked with him. I think he was at Standard, and also through Mad. I met him through Mad, because he was at the
Whispers was the Standard.
well,
not
at the
Nation?
Standard, but he came back at some point.
To Nation.
Yes, so I worked with him, but I got to know him. I got to hang out a lot with him. We spent a lot of time with Paul and him, and other journalists, and in lots of weekends I would meet him, and other journalists and writers, and so it was quite.
Because I feel like that, because at that point I'm a kid, and I feel like the journalists in that time were sort of celebrities, because like when I think of Whispers and I think of Kwendo Opanga, I feel like these names were a certain level.
Yeah. These were big. These were big guys. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, they were the celebrities of their time, and they also, these were also very good journalists. I mean, there was also one of the things. So I learned a lot also from these people. No doubt about that. I mean, I learned a lot. I read a lot.
Yeah.
No doubt about it, and I had to go back and forth reading previous,
things that have happened.
Look through the stuff that has happened in the past. Read, books that a lot of books, journals and so forth. We didn't have mobile phones then, so so you had to go. Either the library and research, if you had to look for a particular somebody's picture, you have to go in the library and go through the files, and so it was actually quite time consuming and so forth, and then also at the same time you have deadlines waiting for you, and actually you had to do a lot of work. I mean, I had to do I had to do editorial drawings for the Taifa, for Nation. I had to do Whispers on Sunday. I had to do so my education was quite actually hectic.
So you're the one who used to draw him with that big nose, because there was this iconic big nose
so
for
it's, the
Big forehead.
yes.
Yeah, no, I think I picked from.
Mad.
I didn't create the character, because he was already the character was already created.
Okay, okay. So you just
from
picked on it.
Yeah, and so I had to pick up from what from where Mad left off. So I it was already a character, and I continued. I had to do drawings on Sergeant's Diary. I had to do. There was actually a whole lot of.
Okay. Because I don't know why in my mind I just assumed that you just do the ones I see Gado written.
No,
so
back
you
then
have to
was
do
a lot
everything
of,
else.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of things. I think with time is the Nation hired
Other
a
people.
lot more artists during my time, and so I ended up actually just doing the editorial work.
Okay.
Which is actually a lot of work in
Yeah,
itself.
I know, because you have to
you have to.
know everything that's happening, then think of the most interesting thing. So do you submit a few and then they choose one, or what happens? So you just draw one and you tell them this is what we're going with tomorrow?
No, so over time that has changed. I mean, at Nation I would and Nation, and back then I would come up with an idea, and probably sometimes one or two, and probably share that with an editor, with my editors, and and I would finalize it, and then they would
decide.
you know. With time, of course, then you would come up, sometimes it's difficult to come with 2 ideas or 3 ideas, but you would pick an issue and you would think, okay, this is it.
Okay.
And so you would work on that, because it's also not easy to just draw 3,
That's what
4
I'm thinking.
ideas. However, you sometimes work with 4 or 3 ideas, and then you say, okay, this is what I'll go. Or probably this, I can keep this one for tomorrow. I can probably wait for this. Probably this is not ready, or probably this is not working out as as well as you want. So you end up with one, and then so it, with that, then your editors would okay that. And with time, then you would know probably if an idea is problematic or not, and then you'll just but there have been times where editors would reject your ideas because it's probably
can bring problems,
sensitive, or sometimes it's probably it could be there are legal implications implications to it, and so forth. So they would say if they see that, they would do that. And at times editors would be also say, okay, this might bring us problem, and and most of the time, I think a lot of times where editors will say, well, this will bring a problem, but we'll go with it anyway. And so, and again, I must admit also, I worked with fantastic editors at Nation, and they very much protected me and made sure that when the shit hits the fan, you kind of you are protected. You
because that makes me curious. Like the first time drawing Moi, because remember Moi was larger than life. By the time you're coming, it's when we've just gotten multi-party democracy. People are still very afraid of him because we used to hear that he knew everything. So when was the first time you drew him? 92 itself, or you had to wait for
92, but I think he has been also drawn by already other cartoonists.
Even as a dictatorship.
Yes, I think in a way there was a way he was presented, and I think he was kind of the joke about Moi is sort of like was drawn. We started drawing slowly by slowly, so turning him around, and I think one day sort of like he was there. So I think when we started, was the idea of drawing Moi alone was, something. It's like, it doesn't matter what you are drawing. But with time, it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't necessarily, by mid 90s, of course you could draw him. But so it was, yes, it was actually, something like, okay, this is somebody who you don't want to mess up with. But again, the fact that, I was working at for a nation, so that was, made it easier.
You're not afraid that he'll be like, this person is not even Kenyan, in quotes, how dare he draws me and I'm the president?
I don't think he cared any less about that. I mean, I've had, of course, work permit, but I think he had bigger problems to deal with rather than dealing with
a lot of parties
with the civil concerns. I mean, I don't think. I mean, he was very, he was broadly speaking, he was very much also always concerned about what is written about him and the press in general, and he was always kind of. You had the stories of him following up what is happening, through the press and so forth. But I think by that time also. It was accepted that you can draw. What you draw was always contestable in the sense that, okay, so of course there were certain drawings that, okay, we can't probably publish this, but with, of course, again, with time we got to buy that in terms of what is acceptable and what is not.
Okay, so after he left 2002, do you have anything that you drew that you were like, this one I would not have drawn when he was still president? Did you ever? Because I remember afterwards we were just mocking him and there was nothing wrong with that. It just became normal, like Moi is.
Yeah, I think no. I think even now I look back, I think there are drawings that I did, I would say, I look back and this was rough. This was probably, but not necessarily like. I don't think I have regrets, so to speak. There are drawings that I've always said maybe I should have done better. So like you always have that. So I think that happens, with many artists. That I could have done even a better job. I think that I do.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. And right now, I'd say you've lived in Kenya more than you've lived in Tanzania. So deep down you yourself, do you feel more Tanzanian or more Kenyan? Because I feel like you are. We have every right to claim you because you've been here longer. And you've lived here longer.
No, I won't blame you for sure. But no, I call myself a true East African.
Yeah. Okay.
And so no, I'm very much also Tanzanian. I mean, I go there for my holidays. My brothers and sisters are there.
Okay.
My father is there. My mother passed on a few years ago. But professionally, I've worked, here. My two kids were born here, and so is. So yeah, I mean, I did. I feel very, very much Kenyan.
Okay.
But I feel also very much Tanzanian. I mean, I know, for example, Kenyan politics well. I've gone to do lots of other things. I've produced television shows. I've formed a production house here. So I've done a lot of things here professionally, and yes, so I'm very fine, in but I'm also one of those people. If you throw me to Antarctica, I will survive.
You'll adapt.
Just
you'll
fine.
adapt. Okay.
I will, and I've had the opportunity to travel around the world. I've studied in Canada, studied in Italy. I have, and I'm as I said, I'm very much also very much what you would say a globalist in many many respects. But I think
because the next thing that I wanted to ask was like we see you in the protests like last week. So the question is, after all this time, did you end up becoming also a Kenyan citizen, or is there a dual Kenyan Tanzanian, or what happens?
No, we don't have so.